News 5 in high definition starts right now.
Late last night, it was evident that this was probably the direction we needed to go for the best of all concerned. None of us want to be in this position, but we are in this position, and now we move forward.
Tennessee makes a big change. Butch Jones is out in Knoxville. We have team coverage on this big story. Casey Getz and Heather Williams will have the latest on Butch Jones. And Mike Lucas caught up with Tennessee fans to get their reaction to today's news.
Jess, well, ever since that 41-0 loss to Georgia back on September 30th for Tennessee, it seemed like it was more a question of when Butch Jones would be fired rather than if he would be fired. The when turned out to be today. Jones was fired one day after the Vols' 50-17 loss at Missouri. The loss dropped Tennessee to 4-6 overall, 0-6 in the SEC. Tennessee Athletic Director John Currie met with Jones this morning and informed him that he was making a change.
Well, we're standing here right now because we haven't won enough. And I believed as we went throughout the season, even though there were moments of frustration, there were also moments of optimism. And I wanted to give our coaching staff and our student athletes the best possible chance to be successful. And I believed that best possible chance to be successful and win the games was under Coach Jones's leadership.
All right, I'm joined now by Heather Williams. And Heather, you heard John Currie say it was under Coach Jones' leadership that he wanted this season to go, but you look at some numbers behind you here and he had no choice.
Yeah, 4-6 this season, 2-10 in the last 12 seasons in the SEC, 6-4 in games against ranked opponents. I mean, that's not what Tennessee football expects to be.
Yeah, really, I mentioned after that Georgia loss, that's when the pressure really started getting turned up on Coach Jones. And then they had the loss to South Carolina, Alabama, Kentucky, even though they outplayed Kentucky. And then yesterday they get blown out by Missouri 50-17. Butch Jones now has lost to every SEC team. They have a losing streak, Tennessee does, to every team in the SEC. Really remarkable.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I think that Missouri loss really kind of hurt the most because yesterday was not what Missouri is. The other teams they kind of saw, and they were what they've been against other teams. But Missouri's offense had kind of really struggled, even though they have the dynamic quarterback. And what you saw yesterday against Tennessee is not what Missouri is. And I think in the end, that was the straw that broke the camel's back when it comes to Butch Jones.
And Butch Jones not coaching the last two games of the season. Tennessee still has 2 games left. We'll have more on that a little bit later in sports. But, of course, the news out of Knoxville today quickly made its way up here to the Tri-Cities.
Hey, guys, on some stories, it's hard to find people who are willing to talk to you. Today, finding people wasn't the problem. The problem was finding anyone with anything positive to say about the former Vols head coach.
Very good recruiter, but the coaching left a lot to be desired. A lot of bad decisions in almost every game. It wasn't a shock at all. Everyone's just waiting until when it was going to happen. You know, most people thought it would happen earlier in the season after, the losses, but it was inevitable.
You got all the top 10 recruiting classes that we've had. We should have been winning some games.
We need to have some winning scores. 17-50 is kind of outside that ballpark.
It's not a good thing to be a coach in Tennessee football. If you're not winning like, General Neyland was, you're not good enough.
During Jones's 5 seasons as the Vols head coach, his team lost by 30 or more points 8 times. Derek Dooley, Lane Kiffin, and Philip Fulmer combined for 8 losses by 30 or more points in the 20 previous seasons.
All right, we're going to have much more on Butch Jones coming up later in sports. You want to read a letter that Athletic Director John Currie wrote to Vol Nation. You can check it out on our website, WCYB.com.
The Butch Jones era at Tennessee has come to an end. Athletic Director John Currie making the announcement official just before 2 p.m. this afternoon. The word started leaking on Twitter before noon. Within the last hour, Currie has met with the media and talked about what led to the decision this morning and how tough it was to make the move.
I have tremendous respect for Coach Jones and for Barb. And as I said earlier, they poured everything in to making our program better. And my admiration for him has only grown in this process. So he was absolutely professional when we talked this morning. He cares about his team, he cares about his coaching staff, and he cares about the University of Tennessee.
All right, Casey Getz joining me now. And Casey, what's next in the immediate future for the Vols at head coach?
Well, they have 2 games left. Brady Hoke is going to take over. He was the defensive line coach at Tennessee. He was the former head coach at the University of Michigan, so he has some experience as a head coach. He'll be in charge of the Vols for the LSU and Vanderbilt games. Both are at home. Butch Jones not going away empty-handed, though, Heather. $8 million buyout from Tennessee as a parting gift. Now, that would be mitigated if he gets a job elsewhere.
So the Vols are still eligible for a bowl. I mean, what's kind of next for this team?
Yeah, I mean, they're 4-6. If they win their last two, they'd be 6-6 and go to a bowl game. So really, that's the focus right now, as John Curry said, for Brady Hoke and the rest of the staff, is game plan for LSU, of course, and try and win these final two games and go to a bowl game. Now, in terms of everyone's going to want to know who's going to be the next head coach at Tennessee, John Curry, albeit not giving much information away, he did say this will be his only public comments until he hires somebody. He did say he's not going to use a search firm. A lot of ADs do use one, but he's going to make that call himself. And he really didn't get into specifics. If he's looking for someone, he was asked, should somebody have prior head coaching experience? He said, we're going to hire the best candidate for Tennessee, Heather. So being very tight-lipped about that, of course. A lot of Vol fans want to know John Gruden. He's at the top of the wish list. We'll see what happens there, of course.
All right, so thank you, Casey, very much for joining us. There is more on Butch Jones firing, including the letter sent to fans from John Curry on our website, WCYB.com.
It really seemed like this was not a matter of if, but when, and when ended up being today.
Yeah, I don't think any Vols fans are really surprised by this news. Maybe the timing a little bit, because once you kind of got past the Alabama game, you thought, well, maybe he'd ride it out through the end of the year. Greg Schiano will not be the next head coach of the Tennessee Vols. Multiple reports say the two sides had a memo of understanding for Schiano to be the next UT football coach, and that the two sides were working out contract deals. When word of his hiring hit Twitter, Vols fans came out strongly against the hiring, protesting online and in person at Neyland Stadium. So Tennessee officially ended the contract talks this evening. Meanwhile, two other possible replacements for Butch Jones are now off the board. Dan Mullen is reportedly headed to Florida, and Scott Frost appears to be going back to his alma mater, Nebraska.
Those against the potential hiring took to social media to express their concern about the team hiring Schiano. Many fans also went to Neyland Stadium in protest of the possibility. Fans are upset because he reportedly knew about the abuse scandal at Penn State while he was on staff and did not report it. Several state lawmakers also reacted on Twitter, saying considering Schiano is unacceptable and the Tennessee community does not approve of him. Fans at the protest expressed their concern about the coach.
A lot of former players have come out and said that he doesn't care about them. He'll run to them into the ground, and he doesn't care about them as people. And it goes against the family values that Tennessee has tried to instill in their team.
The fallout continues at Tennessee after the deal between the university and Greg Schiano to become their next head football coach fell through. Fans were upset because of Schiano's ties to the Penn State football program and his link to testimony to the Jerry Sandusky abuse case. Although there was some question that UT might owe Schiano money, reports out of Knoxville tonight say the memo of understanding was not signed by Tennessee's chancellor. And today, athletic director John Curry chimed in on this issue for the first time. The statement says, in part, quote, we carefully interviewed him and vetted him as we do all candidates for positions. He received the highest recommendations for character, family values, and commitment to academic achievement and student-athlete welfare from the current and former athletic directors, players, coaching colleagues, and experienced media figures. You can see the entire statement on our website, WCYB.com. Schiano also got support today from his current employer, Ohio State.
I'll make this comment that I've apologize. I've said it many, many times. He's an elite person, elite father, elite husband, elite friend, and elite football coach. I stand by my coach.
Vols have focused on Oklahoma State coach Mike Gundy. Feldman says the Vols would likely need to pony up about $6 million per year to lure Gundy from Stillwell. He has led the Cowboys to a 113-53 record in 12 seasons at Oklahoma State. If the Vols can't land Gundy, reports say UT has reached out to Purdue's Jeff Brom and NC State's Dave Doran. Strike two for the Tennessee Vols as they search for their next head football coach. Oklahoma State head coach Mike Gundy said thanks, but no thanks. Gundy tweeted a little over an hour ago that he was a Cowboy for life, and multiple reports say that he has officially turned down the job. So where do the Vols turn now? Fox Sports' Bruce Feldman reports that UT has also reached out to Jeff Brom of Purdue and NC State's Dave Doran. Other reports point to Auburn defensive coordinator Kevin Steele and SMU coach Chad Morris. And there's a big move within Vols circles for current USC offensive coordinator and former UT national championship quarterback T. Martin.
Well, the search continues for a new football coach at Tennessee, and even the most ardent Vol fan has to admit it's getting kind of comical. Just when it sounds like the Vols have found their new guy, something happens, and they return to square one. Sports director Casey Getz joins me now with an update on the search. Casey?
PJ, it's been a very interesting couple of days, to say the least. And in case you're busy stuffing your face full of turkey or traveling, you might need a refresher on where things stand at Tennessee. First off was the people's choice, Jon Gruden. All those groomers that hit a fever pitch the day of the LSU game, but those have nearly died off. Gruden's not taking the job. Next up was Dan Mullen, Mississippi State. By all accounts, he was offered the job, but he held off giving Tennessee an answer until he was offered the Florida job, and he took that one. Then on Sunday, we had Greg Schiano. Accepted the job, and then a social media internet uprising by Vol Nation and even politicians in the state led Tennessee to walk away from Schiano. Next up was David Cutcliffe, former offensive coordinator at Tennessee. He's now at Duke. He said, Tennessee, thanks, but I'm not interested. I'm going to stay at Duke. And we're not done. We got more. Yesterday, it was Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State. Tennessee, he met with John Curry, but later said, no thanks, I'm staying at Oklahoma State. And then finally today was Jeff Brom of Purdue. That's who Tennessee turned their attention to, but it appears Brom is not going to take the job either, so that leaves Tennessee where they were the day after they fired Butch Jones, still looking. Well, Tennessee's search for a head coach continues. Today, NC State's Dave Dorn became the latest to say no to the Vols. However, late tonight, the NBC affiliate in Dallas-Fort Worth reporting that Tennessee is working on a deal with Washington State head coach Mike Leach. So we'll see what happens tomorrow, but judging from social media what I saw tonight, Tennessee fans would be very happy if Mike Leach came to Knoxville.
We begin this noon with a developing story out of Knoxville where reports say Tennessee Athletic Director John Curry has been fired. Good afternoon, I'm Preston Ayers, News 5 Sports. Heather Williams has been following this closely throughout the morning. She joins us now live with the latest out of Knoxville. Heather.
Preston, the 4 p.m. press conference has been called at UT to be led by Chancellor Beverly Davenport. That's where she's expected to announce Curry's dismissal. The trouble began for Curry on Sunday when he tried to hire Greg Schiano as the Vols head football coach.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm PJ Johnson. We are just moments away from a live news conference in Knoxville, Tennessee. You know, just when you thought the Tennessee Vols search for a new football coach might be nearing an end, there has been another twist. You've been watching a live press conference from Knoxville, Tennessee with Tennessee legend Phil Fulmer. Let's bring you up to date in case you're just joining us. Early Thursday afternoon, Dr. Beverly Davenport called John Curry home from the West Coast. This morning, he was let go, and Phil Fulmer was named the new athletic director, as she put it, for the foreseeable future, whatever that might mean.
News 5 in high definition starts right now.
John Curry has been suspended, and Philip Fulmer has agreed to step in as our athletic director.
There's been a change at the top for the University of Tennessee Athletics. A news conference held just moments ago announcing that former UT coach Phil Fulmer is going to be the interim athletic director. But what does that mean for the coaching search? Thanks for watching News 5 at 5. I'm PJ Johnson. 8 months, that's how long Curry lasted as Tennessee's athletic director. It's the shortest tenure of any AD in school history. And the search for UT's new football coach has now lasted longer than anyone could have expected. On Sunday, Curry and Ohio State defensive coordinator Greg Schiano agreed to terms on a deal. But then the two sides backed out after an extreme backlash backed by social media, really a protest on social media. Former assistant David Cutcliffe said no thanks. Then Curry reportedly offered the job to first Oklahoma State's Mike Gundy, who got a raise when he said no, Purdue's Jeff Brom, who did the same thing, and NC State's Dave Dorn. All turned him down. Curry was reportedly ready to offer the job to Washington State's Mike Leach, but that's when he was summoned back to Knoxville for a meeting this morning when he was reportedly let go. Rocky Top right now is anything but home sweet home for college football coaches. At a news conference this afternoon, there were a lot of questions but very little answers. Heather Williams joins us live from Knoxville right now. So, Heather, why did Chancellor Davenport make the change, and who's going to replace Curry as Tennessee's AD?
Well, this has certainly been one of the strangest things that I've seen in my 17 years or so of covering the University of Tennessee's athletic department. Today's media conference was, for the most part, upbeat, but at times it was a little contentious. But at the conference, Philip Fulmer was officially introduced as the athletic director, and he will lead the athletic department for the foreseeable future and lead the search for the Vols' new head football coach. He met with the athletic department shortly before being introduced to the media by Chancellor Beverly Davenport. When asked about what led her to make the change now, or if the university would consider to pursue Mike Leach, who John Curry was reportedly close to making a deal with on Thursday, Davenport would not elaborate.
I want to be clear today that we're here to talk about the change in the leadership in the athletics department. I'm not going to talk about coaches at any other schools or at any other places.
Now, obviously, Philip Fulmer is a name that is very familiar to Vols fans after spending years as their head football coach. Coming up tonight at 5:30, I'll talk about Fulmer and why he just might be the perfect guy to lead the Vols through this kind of rough patch. Getting the facts right in Knoxville, Heather Williams, News 5, WCYB.
All right, Heather, thank you very much. Now, John Curry's dismissal is sending shockwaves through students and fans of the University of Tennessee. News 5's Ellie Romano went to Bristol today to talk with football fans to gauge their reaction to today's news.
Here at Applebee's, there's definitely a general consensus on the firing of athletic director John Curry. That consensus, they're glad to see him go and think the school needs change.
I think it's amazing. The athletic director has taken it to a higher place than he ever should have taken it, and I agree upon his firing.
I think it'll be good for him that they did.
I think it's probably a good thing. They're certainly having a hard time firing a coach. The fans wasn't agreeing with the coaches he was trying to hire, so it's probably time for him to go.
I just think he was doing the best that he could, and they should have gave him some more time.
We'll continue to keep you updated on this developing story right here on News 5, coming up on News 5 at 6. Getting the facts right in Bristol, Ellie Romano, News 5 WCYB.
Well, thank you, Ellie. Tennessee fans may have to be patient, though. Phil Fulmer made it clear that he's looking for a candidate that will bring stability to the program and return Tennessee to its championship days.
The athletic department offices here at the University of Tennessee sit right at the corner of Lake Loudon and Philip Fulmer Way. And as the search for a new head coach got messier and messier, fans began to call for their former national championship head coach to come back and lead the athletic department instead of John Curry. Today, they got their wish. Chancellor Beverly Davenport placed AD John Curry on administrative leave this morning and brought in former head coach Phil Fulmer to lead the Vols for the foreseeable future. It's been a tough week for the Vols in the media, but Fulmer believes he's the right guy to fix all that.
I hope to be a stabilizing and unifying force through this, just because we do have some gray hair and lots of experience at this place, and you know, sometimes it's that when you were younger that you screwed it up so bad that you figured it out later, right? You don't make the same mistakes again.
Now, as I mentioned, Fulmer will be in charge of finding the next head football coach here at the University of Tennessee. Coming up tonight at 6, we'll hear from Fulmer about if he thinks his job is still a desirable one and what kind of timetable we're looking at for finding a head coach. Getting the facts right in Knoxville, Heather Williams, News 5, WCYB.
All right, thank you very much, Heather. Now, if you're not a football fan, you might be asking, what's the big deal? It's just a game. But in the Southeastern Conference where Tennessee plays, the game is really about money. We've been doing some research, and we found out this. A recent study found that UT football has a $355 million annual economic impact. The university has 20 sports, but football accounts for making 57% of all the income for the athletic department. The average home game brings in over $42 million. Hotels make another $73 million every year off football. Restaurants and bars get another $82 million.
News 5 in high definition starts right now.
It is my mission to lead our entire athletic department in a way that honors our university's legacy and insist on excellence.
Philip Fulmer back in the saddle. He's the new man in charge of leading the Vols athletic program, taking over the reins from John Curry, who was placed on a paid leave early this morning. Thanks for watching News 5 at 6. I'm PJ Johnson. Curry lasted only 8 months as Tennessee's athletic director, the shortest tenure of any AD in school history. But all these guys right here can thank him, because most of the guys that you see here got a raise. The search for the UT football coach has lasted longer than anyone could have expected. On Sunday, Curry and Ohio State defensive coordinator Greg Schiano agreed to terms on a deal. But then the two sides had to back out after extreme backlash on social media. Former assistant David Cutcliffe said he wasn't interested, so Curry reportedly offered the job to some other folks like Oklahoma State's Mike Gundy, Purdue's Jeff Brom, and NC State's Dave Doran. All three turned him down, and all three got raises to stay where they were. Curry was reportedly ready to offer the job to Washington State's Mike Leach, But that's when he was summoned back to Knoxville for a meeting this morning when he was reportedly let go. Rocky Top right now is anything but home sweet home for college football coaches. Heather Williams was at the press conference today where Chancellor Beverly Davenport made that move official, and she joins us now with the latest on the big change in Big Orange Country.
It has been one crazy week here at the University of Tennessee, and sometime yesterday afternoon, Chancellor Beverly Davenport decided that she had had enough and called John Curry off the road where he had been searching for UT's next coach, and this morning she placed him on administrative leave. Former head coach Philip Fulmer will now be in charge of running the athletic department and for finding the next head football coach at Tennessee. He says he's not interested in the job himself, even on an interim basis, but he does believe this is still a good job for the right person, and he plans to start the search immediately.
I haven't established a timetable to this point because this has all happened so fast, but I think with the background that I've had here, as well as we've done at different times here, the facilities, the tradition, the leadership that we have here, I definitely think there will be people that will be interested.
Coming up a little later on in sports, we'll hear from Coach Fulmer about what he's looking for in the new head coach, and we'll also find out what he's doing for recruits who are now sitting in limbo. Getting the facts right in Knoxville, Heather Williams, News 5 WCYB.
News 5 in high definition starts right now.
A new era is set to begin at the University of Tennessee as Jeremy Pruitt, the current defensive coordinator at Alabama, will be the new head football coach for the Volunteers. The Big Orange nightmare with a coaching search so bizarre, even Hollywood would reject the script, apparently is now over. Good evening, I'm PJ Johnson.
And I'm Casey Getz. It took 25 days, but Tennessee finally has their man in Jeremy Pruitt. Hopefully, Vols fans, this hire will end up worth the wait. So who is Jeremy Pruitt? Well, he is 43 years old, has almost a dozen years of experience coaching at the collegiate level, almost all of them in the SEC.
Now, Casey, this is how hungry he was. Nick Saban hired him at Alabama back in 2007 as a director of player development. After 3 years, he was promoted to defensive backs coach. He did that for 3 more years.
In 2013, Pruitt went to Florida State to become the Seminoles defensive coordinator under Jimbo Fisher. Florida State won the national title that year. He left Florida State, though, after just 1 year to become Georgia's defensive coordinator under Mark Richt in 2014 and 2015.
And then when Kirby Smart left Alabama to become Georgia's head coach after the 2015 season, Pruitt went back to Alabama. Saban said he didn't even interview anybody. He wanted him back to be the Crimson Tide's defensive coordinator.
And Pruitt will be formally introduced as Tennessee's head coach 1 hour from now. News 5's Mike Lucas has been in Knoxville all day talking to students, getting their reaction to the Vols' new coach.
Hey guys, when we got to campus today, everyone was walking around with their heads down, kind of moping around, a far cry from the exuberant campus we expected to step into today. But then we learned today was the first day of finals for the UT student body, and that's when it all started making sense. As soon as we started talking about football, the students' eyes began to light up. We ended up talking to about a dozen students today, and they're all hopeful that Coach Jeremy Pruitt can bring the Vols back to the top of the college football world. A few even citing his success at his previous stops as a reason that he's the right man for the job.
Obviously, coming from, the programs and the defenses he's had at Georgia and Alabama, I'm excited for what he brings. He's a younger coach. He's a really good recruiter.
The coaching search kind of started out really rough, and I think to land someone like Jeremy Pruitt, who has really successful background with the national championships at Florida State and Alabama, I think he'll bring a good vibe around the campus.
Coach Pruitt will address the media for the first time in his Vols tenure in just about an hour, and we will be inside that press conference. We'll have another live report tonight at 10 and 11 with what Coach Pruitt had to say. For now, reporting live from Neyland Stadium, Mike Lucas, News 5 WCYB.
All right, Mike, thank you very much. Now, this coaching search has been watched nationwide because of the reaction from Tennessee fans. You might remember they held a social media uprising once they learned that Greg Schiano was about to be hired.
Yeah, and here locally, I'd say production offices has dropped off dramatically while people constantly refreshing their Twitter, Facebook feeds looking for updates. But now that Tennessee has their man, the question now becomes, what do the fans think of the hire here locally? News 5's Tiana Bonner has the answer.
Well, Vol fans are among the most loyal in college football, but that can also make them the hardest to please. So we hit the streets of downtown Bristol to ask fans what they think about Jeremy Pruitt. They told us he'll do well in Tennessee as long as he has a good staff around him. Die-hard fans also want to see Pruitt bring in some strong recruiting classes. And no matter what, they say Pruitt is a relief after weeks of turmoil.
It's tough business trying to get that and try to keep a really good program that's had a lot of history still going after all the stuff that's been going on this past season.
Hope the fan base just gives him a chance, you know. I mean, we got a coach now, so we got to stand behind him.
So the good news so far sounds like all of the Vol fans I talked to out here are willing to give Pruitt a shot. For now, we're getting the facts right in Bristol. I'm Tiana Bonner, News 5 WCYB.
All right, thanks a lot, Tiana. PJ, here's a bit of irony. On this day 5 years ago, Butch Jones was introduced as Tennessee's head coach.
I'd forgotten all about that, but I guess it is worth mentioning that the last Vol coach with Alabama ties was Bill Battle, and that ended with fans putting a moving van in front of his house. Hopefully, Pruitt will be here for the long haul. Stay tuned. We'll carry that press conference live from Knoxville on News 5 at 6. Julie?
PJ, Casey, thank you so much. In other news today, a major shakeup on Capitol Hill. Senator Al Franken.
But now we're going to go live to Knoxville here for the press conference. It's getting underway right now.
And I am absolutely confident that Jeremy Pruitt is that person for this program at this time.
News 5 in high definition starts right now.
Now I'd like to introduce to you Jeremy Pruitt, the head football coach of the Tennessee Football Volunteers.
There you hear Tennessee Athletic Director Philip Fulmer introducing the new head football coach of the Vols, Jeremy Pruitt. That happened this afternoon in Knoxville, and we were there live for the event. The unprecedented coaching search finally coming to an end at Tennessee. Thanks for joining us for News 5 tonight at 11. I'm Julie Newman. That coaching search was certainly one for the record books. The Vols believe in Jeremy Pruitt, and they think he's the man to bring the Big Orange back to championship form. Our sports director, Casey Gitz, has been following this story, this saga, really, from the very start. He joins us now to talk about what happens next. Casey?
Well, Julie, what's next for Jeremy Pruitt in Tennessee is a very busy 10 days. Pruitt will spend the next week and a half recruiting some more while he starts to lay the foundation for his program. Then he will go back to Alabama once the recruiting dead period begins on December 18th. He'll focus on leading Alabama to another national championship as their defensive coordinator. That's something Tennessee fans hope he can do in Knoxville one day as well. News 5's Mike Lucas spent the day in Knoxville as the Jeremy Pruitt era is now officially underway.
Jeremy Pruitt is now the 26th head coach in UT's history, and at his first press conference as the Vols' new coach, he says none of these numbers matter. The only thing he's concerned about is bringing this program back into the national spotlight.
My expectations is to win every game we play.
Pruitt comes to Knoxville after successful stints as defensive coordinator at Alabama, Georgia, and Florida State.
We want to create an aggressive style of defense that we dictate what the offense does. We're not going to sit back on our heels. All right? We're not going to play off wide receivers. We're going to walk up at the line of scrimmage, and we're going to challenge, and every inch that the other team gets is going to be challenged.
Offensively, he says the key is balance and the big uglies up front.
We want to be a big, fast, dominating, aggressive, relentless football team that nobody in the SEC wants to play.
Pruitt comes to Rocky Top with the reputation as one of the best recruiters in the country, and he's already working on bringing in the best talent for his system.
Number one, identify who fits at the University of Tennessee. That's important. Then we've got to get in front of them and do the best job that we can do to convince them to come to the University of Tennessee.
Expectations on Rocky Top are sky high, as Coach Pruitt learned firsthand in his initial discussion with the school's chancellor.
He told me he wanted to win championships, and I told him, make no bones about it. Tennessee expects you to.
Pruitt and his staff will spend the rest of the winter recruiting, but when it comes back to playing football, their first home game right here at Neyland Stadium will be against none other than the ETSU Bucks. Reporting from Neyland Stadium, Mike Lucas, News 5 WCYB.
Pruitt signed a 6-year contract with the Vols. He'll get $3.8 million a year. As Mike said, Pruitt's first time running through the T in Neyland Stadium will be against ETSU. His first game, though, as the Vols head coach, and any head coach, will come a week before that in Charlotte against West Virginia. Now, coming up later in sports, we're going to hear from Coach on why he's ready for this challenge, even though he's never been a head coach before. Julie?
Looking forward to that report in sports, Casey. Thank you. By the end of the year, Johnson City will be operating just